the last sort of 21 years of doing this sets you up for something like this. It sets you up for, you know, having that sort of resilience and endurance. I started there in 1999 and it was, I don't know, it was like entering special selection.
I mean, the podcast is being interrupted by Gordon Ramsay, everyone.
If you want to be a great leader, if you want to get on, listen. We were selling sandwiches and scones and tea cakes to put money in the till. My first day there, I got thrown off service by Gordon.
Why you're doing this now at this point in your career?
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest because I think it's good to be really honest and stuff. And I don't mind, you know, there's certain things I think, you know, you don't share, but this is make or break.
Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, mate, absolute pleasure. You have managed to get us out of the studio today, which is absolutely glorious. I mean, we are in one of your amazing restaurants, one of your pubs. But thanks so much for having us on the show. How is the start, or we're almost halfway through 2026, but how has 2026 been for you?
2026 has been I don't want to say sort of stressful, but it has been a very, challenging, stressful.
Yeah.
But also exciting and exhilarating start to the year. You know, there's been lots going on. I've got a huge new project, biggest project of my life to date. For me, my wife, our entire team, and it's a real sort of make or break project. So with that comes all of the challenges, from financing it to, you know, the vision for it, you know, having, you know, is the idea that we believe in, the idea that, you know, people, you know, want, and all of those things sort of go through your head. And, you know, with that comes lots of challenges. But do you know what? We're sort of beginning of May and I'm feeling good. You know, I'm feeling good. And I think the last sort of 21 years of doing this sets you up for something like this. It sets you up for, you know, having that sort of resilience and endurance. And, you know, I'll say to myself, you know, you've been here before, Paul. You know, when we were doing this place, this wasn't a walk in the park. You know, this was an absolute overhaul at the Mariners to get it how we wanted to get it. And also not knowing rock. And a lot of people sort of saying to us, yeah, rock's busy in the summer, but come winter, it's a ghost town. So, yeah, that's been, you know, sort of that history, I suppose, is got me to this point where I believe in what I do. I believe in myself, and I know that the team around me and surrounding myself with the best people, you know, this is going to be, you know, not going to be, it is.
It's going to be the one.
It's done. It's written. It's non-negotiable. It's, you know, I suppose I don't want to say the cherry on the cake, because I feel I've got so much more to give, and I feel the Ainsworth collection feels like we just feel like it's always beginning. It always feels fresh. It always feels exciting. And what's next? And yeah, I absolutely love it as well. That's the key, I think. I love it.
It's so important, right? And we're going to get on to so much about what you're building in the future and also what you've built today, because your collection it's not a small collection. You've done a lot in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
But before all that, I mean, you basically grew up in the hospitality trade, right? That was your life as a child. Can you just tell me a little bit more about what that was? Yeah,
I was born in Southampton. I was born into a guest house, essentially. It was 5 bedrooms, and then my parents took it to 10 bedrooms. The workplace was home life.
Right.
To me, I didn't know any different. I loved it. I can remember my dad sort of saying, you know, at the school gates, you know, when you're chatting to parents, they would be a bit, you know, well, is that the sort of best environment to bring a child up in? And, you know, because it being a guest house as well, it was 7 days a week.
Right.
So
your parents were always working?
Always working.
Wow.
And particularly my dad was a real sort of disciplinarian in it. You know, he pushed me.
Right.
You know, he pushed me. And I think sometimes my mum thought maybe a bit too far, you know, and I'm talking like, you know, like a young age, from a very young age. I think from the moment I can remember, you know, it was like jobs. You know, I never had any sort of thing as like pocket money. If I was going to be given a couple of quid, it had to be, there was a transaction.
Right.
So there was a transaction of, right, well, if you want, you know, money, you have to earn it. And
did that not seem normal to you though? Like at that point, if that's how you were growing up?
I suppose to me it did. But then when you start to hang out with your mates, you realise it's not.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you got mates that like, they've got a brand new pair of Nike Air Max because mum and dad have bought them. Yeah. You know, or they've got whatever, you know, back then, shell suits. Or like, or kind of stuff like, stuff like that. But for me, and even my mates was like, oh, your dad, you know, your old man, you know, he's no let up with him. You know, he's kind of, he just doesn't stop. And they'd call for me, you know, like when your mates call for you, you know, I'm from that sort of 90s era where the boys would call for me and I'd be like, lads, I can't come out here. And because because the family home was the workplace, it wasn't.
Oh, you lived in the building?
Yeah, we lived in the building.
Sorry, I didn't realise that.
Yeah. So
it's really the workplace.
So it was really the workplace. Yeah. So it wasn't like they were calling for me, you know, sort of 2 up, 2 down. And, you know, so I'm sweeping the car park, I'm doing the gardens, you know, I've got all of these jobs to do. And then I sort of got a bit savvy to it and I'd start to kind of say, well, listen, I can get out quicker if you give me a hand. And so then I built this little mini workforce. We're like helping
the boys are coming in their shell suits.
Boys are coming in their shell suits and like, you know, and I'd be like, look, you know, I can, you know, and because we had a little bar. Right. So I'd pinch Cokes from the bar to give to the lads and stuff and say, you know, Vince, if you help me get this done, I can get out quicker. There's a Coke in it for you.
We're sweet.
And we're sweet. Yeah, exactly. Amazing. So yeah, like home life and work life for me. And then once I was, you know, allowed out, I then, you know, paper round culture, which I loved. And I just always wanted to earn. I always wanted to sort of, you know, earn money to kind of buy things. And, you know, I just loved it. And, you know, I'm at a paper shop and I've got 4 rounds, you know, so I did a morning round, an evening round, and then I did the Sunday round, the Saturday round. Then the shopkeeper said, do you want to come and insert the magazines into the tabloids on the, you know, on the weekends? Because the weekend papers, they don't turn up to the shop with the magazines in them. Right. So I'd get to the shop at 4 a.m, put all the magazines in all the papers. Then I'd go out and do the rounds. And then the guy up the road, veg merchant, chap called Trevor, he said, look, when the shop closes, I've got all the potatoes to bag up for the next day. I'll give you a couple of quid if you... So I'd sort of finish school, do my paper round, and then I'll be in this kind of veg shop till, you know, 7:30 at night, loading up potatoes and stuff. So, yeah, it was just... I've got a feeling who that could be.
I mean, the podcast is being interrupted by Gordon Ramsay, everyone.
This is being interrupted by Gordon and Tana Ramsay.
You're allowed to interrupt if you want.
Good morning, how are you?
You're in the middle of a very, very important interview.
Yes, yeah, very good. You okay?
Hello, mate. Just
yeah, you?
Sorry for interrupting.
It's for
this
me.
This guy.
Yeah, I've got a small podcast.
This guy, what networks are you running?
None, no.
What's it called?
What it takes.
What it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much. Thanks for the soil.
I just knew that was you and that.
Right, I mean, as interruptions go...
I mean, like, you've got to include
not a problem.
that,
Yeah, that's
you
staying
have
in.
to include that.
I can't remember what we were talking about. I was seeing in the corner of my eye. I was... Anyway, let's move on from paper rounds. All of that's staying in, by the way. That's
It's got to.
Yeah, 100%.
It has to.
But I mean, after your paper rounds, you obviously decided pretty early you wanted to stay in the hospitality trade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, after working with your parents, going through that process, you weren't scared by it because you ended up working in a hotel in Southampton, right?
Yeah.
Which wasn't, as I understand it, the higher class establishment necessarily that you're now working in today and you've done. But going into a kitchen that wasn't a family surrounding and going to that environment, for you, was it like, were you full of confidence or were you kind of ready to understand what you needed to do?
No. I mean, taking it back a step, before the hotel, yeah, I was born into hospitality, but I don't have any of these romantic stories of, you know, me and my grandma cooking together, or, you know, being in the fields and all of this. At this point, I don't know what I want to do, and I certainly don't have any sort of aspirations at this point to be a chef. And at school, you know, you get work experience, and the hotel only came about because I chose 4 of the most random things: a hotel, Roundham services on the M27, Champion Sport, don't you remember those?
No.
And a camping shop like called Black. So again, you know, because I'm at school. Yeah, it's not the place for me. I'm not, you know, I'm definitely not part of the school system. I just was not good at school in all aspects. And I got the position, you know, I got the work experience at the hotel. And I remember just saying to my dad, you know, do you know what, Dad, I'm going to try and get a job here, because, you know, I sort of had all these other bits. I was telling you about the paper rounds, the bed shop. I was selling Betterware, catalogue stuff, you know, just, you know, earning money. And I did get a job there. And sort of when I did get the job there, I was just coming to the end of my exams. And I am that kid, you know, that I think my highest grade was an F. You know, it was all coursework based, GCSEs. School just was not the place for me. And I remember, Ollie, I went to collect my GCSE results. I knew my GCSE results were shocking, and they weren't going to be very good. And I was that Grange Hill type kid, you know, the tie was round my head, you know, like the Joker, you know, Ainsley's funny and he's a good lad. He makes you laugh. He's all good and stuff. And everyone's signing your shirt like they do, you know, you got your white shirt on, ties around your head. For some reason, I always used to walk to school with my mates, and for some reason, I had my exam results, and I don't know how, but you got all of the year 11s leaving, and I'm on my own, and I'm walking down the street, and I can feel it now, and I remember this feeling of, what now? Like this, because as much as I didn't like school, it was a security, it was a bit of a purpose. And what now? You know, I'm about to get this job at a hotel, but it's still at this point, I don't know I want to be a chef. And I just remember thinking to myself, you know, look, you knew your exam results were going to be shocking. You knew that this isn't what you are. You're not an academic like that. But the one thing I knew I did have, Ollie, was I had a work ethic. And I knew I was not afraid of hard work. And I knew that I might not be able to always outsmart people with, you know, maths and, you know, grammar and all the things, you know, that sort of, you know, the school system sort of tries to set you up for and all of that. But I knew I was ahead when it came to work. And I knew that I could outwork people, and I knew that I had a really strong work ethic. And that for me was the thing that I just held on to. That was my sort of, well, what am I good at? What can I do? And I just walked home, and I went and did work experience at the hotel. They offered me a job 6 months later. And I was just a general assistant. 6 months later, I said to the chef, I'd like to come in the kitchen. And as you say, even though it wasn't a spectacular gourmet Michelin star kitchen, it was a 3-star hotel in Southampton. The chef was phenomenal. He was disciplined. And about 3-4 months later, he actually rang my dad without me knowing and said, I think your son's got what it takes, if you don't mind me kicking his ass. I think if a lot of parents got a phone call like that now, they'd probably be like, what do you mean kick his ass? Whereas my dad, as you can probably now build the picture, was very much, well, he's used to that. So, crack on, go for it. And away I went.
The energy of that kitchen and that environment, do you remember it being different to the family one?
I loved it. And he started me as a kitchen porter. And I wore one of those horrendous shallow paper hats, a blue boiler suit with steel toe cap boots. And he had me on the wash up for months. And they did like a roaring trade of like Breville toasties at lunchtime with an iceberg size like side salad.
Nice.
And it was a bit beneath the chefs that were actually there, and they hated it. So when the Romenko machine was printing all these toasties, whereas I was like, well, I'll do it. Because and again, you're right. There was this feeling of, do you know, I'd make the toasty and I'd put the side salad in big bag. They had multi-catering bags of Walker's Crisps. And you put a side thing of Walker's Crisps on the side, ready salted. And then I'd follow the waiter or the waitress up to the top of the stairs, and I'd look through. There was like a kind of like a sort of there was like a door with like a ship kind of like porthole thing.
Got it.
And I'd watch them put it down and sort of, you know, just see if they were like, oh, thank you very much. And if they smiled, and there was that feeling of making something and giving it to somebody that really sort of, it resonated with me. I liked it. I liked the feeling of actually just making something from scratch, whether it was a Breville toasty or now it's what we do now. It's still that there's something really nice about food and the connection and people. And I think that's truly deep down what chefs love. Chefs love to make people happy through food.
Yeah. Do you think there's lessons to be learned no matter which kitchen you're in? At any level?
At any level.
Yeah.
At any
Because do you think there's a conception where, like, if you're in let's say a establishment that isn't quite at the level of a Michelin level or even a guide level or a Rosette or whatever it might be, do you think often people stump that as, I've got nothing to learn there?
No. If you are starting out now, and it's a great question. If you are starting out now, go and do a trial shift. It's called a stage. Go and do a trial. And this is what I did. And I had an amazing piece of advice. And this person said to me, go there, do a trial. And can you really imagine yourself there? Can you visualize yourself there in this kitchen? And don't start to, don't try and go in and go straight to kind of, Michelin level or 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. Start, in somewhere where you can kind of get comfortable, work hard. But the most important thing is put yourself somewhere where it doesn't matter what they're doing, whether they're sort of doing, a roaring trade on sandwiches or they're doing, really, really simple fare. But as long as there is a standard and as long as you feel that you are valued, then start there. And when you go to the next position, no matter how high you climb in that business, the great man, has just walked past. I worked for Gordon for 6 years. And when I joined Royal Hospital Road in 1999, I had left Gary Rhodes and I'd worked my way through the ranks. I was on the sauce section and I kind of left Rhodes in the Square as, I thought, somebody I know. Like, I'm on the sauce. I'm working like the sauce. I'm in that kitchen. I'm butchering. I'm filleting. I'm making sauces. And Gary Rhodes' stocks and sauces are like, those recipes are incredible. But I left Gary Rhodes as a senior chef de partie, but I went into his kitchen as a commie. And I would like, no matter what, because ego tells you, well, no, I want to apply for a chef de partie position. I want to apply for a senior chef de partie position. No chance. Don't do it to yourself.
It's just different levels, isn't it?
Because that's your ego talking. Go in there, start at the bottom. And I'm so glad I did, because when I entered Royal Hospital Road, Restaurant Gordon Ramsay, let me tell you, everything I thought I knew just went out the window. I had a great stamina. And going into Restaurant Gordon Ramsay was, I always describe it as if when I was at Rhodes in the Square and working for Gary, we won a Michelin star and it was brilliant. And when I started at Royal Hospital Road, it was 2 Michelin stars. And I started there in 1999 and it was, I don't know, it was like entering special selection. I had never seen anything like it was breathtaking, and he was on a mission, and I was a part of that. And then a year later, one January evening, we're in service. You can tell something's happening, something's kind of going on. Gordon's just really, can see he's kind of on edge, and it was a good service. It was a real good energy, but there was something happening. He was on edge. We've all got our heads down. And I've been there a year, and he just came into the kitchen and said, that table is free tonight. You can, I know you can all sense that, we've been a bit on edge, but Michelin had come to tell him that he'd won his 3rd Michelin star. And we just all cheered. We were all wrapped up in ultimately his success, but everyone was just so happy, for Gordon, because you just knew that he was driving for that, but we were a team, and we were part of something. And you don't actually realize that. For me, I didn't realize how rare that was, because you then sort of look at 3 Michelin star restaurants now in the UK, and even now they're the holy grail. They're an absolute rarity. But to be part of seeing a restaurant go from 2 to 3 and being, be in that environment was one of the greatest, moments in my career, and it's incredible. And,
definitely. Insane. I want to just ask you about actually working with Gary Rhodes. So you've been in Southampton, you'd got the opportunity to go there. What did you have to do in order to perform in that kitchen? Because for you walked in there with experience, and it's a completely different game, right? And you're in London at this point.
Yeah.
But some imagine everyone's going to think, right, you've got to be fast, got to be able to act in a quick way and at pace. Got to be able to taste, and all these are variables that are really important. But what really was it in that kitchen which was, I need to get to this point in order just to be able to sustain in this role?
Yeah. Gary was phenomenal, and still to this day so ahead of his time.
Right.
An absolute pioneer. He, for me, 100% took me from thinking more is more.
Right.
And actually showing you that actually less is more, but it's still going to give you so much more, like on the plate. And the attention to detail and the precision in what he did was incredible, and he was amazing. And like I said to you earlier, from sauce making to stocks to just actually working somewhere where it was 3 or 4 things, but they were all there for a reason. They were all sort of aiming for perfection. So if that vegetable was there, I suppose when you go from what I'd known to then working for Gary Rhodes, for Gordon Ramsay, you then sort of actually, I don't know if you could call it garnish to me.
Right.
Garnish for me is sometimes, well, you've got this beautiful piece of protein, or actually the vegetable could be the hero, and then it's like, oh, garnish it. Yeah. Whereas when you were working, when I was working for Gary, it wasn't, we weren't garnishing it. We were sort of, well, that's a beautiful piece of beef, and the sweetness of that braised carrot just complements that. This is how we're going to make the sauce, and the acidity we're looking for in the sauce, coming from the type of red wine we're going to use, from the type of vinegar we're going to finish that sauce with, to how we make that sauce, to how we cut the vegetables so they all caramelize at the same time and there's no mush from the vegetables in the sauce. And then when you pass it, to chopping the bones all the same size. You weren't just kind of getting the bones out of a bag from the butcher and ramming them in a tray and putting them in the oven. We cut the bones all the same size. Yeah. And it's all of those disciplines, and then working at that level, being really busy. Rhodes in the Square, we were doing 60 for lunch, 80 for dinner every day. Gary was, he was the sort of the celebrity chef of his time. And what I also loved about Gary was when he was there, and I know we've got a mutual friend, Brian Hewson, you asked Brian, when Gary was there, first one in. And no matter how early you would want to get there to try and beat him, he'd beat you there. And he lived in Kent, and he would drive in.
He lived in Kent?
He lived in Kent, and he would drive in, and I was there for 6:30 in the morning, and Gary had been there since 5:30. And I just got memories. You'd walk around the corner, and we used to have this beef dish on with these beautiful, like, lyonnaise onions. A great example of Gary's cooking. So the onions, you'd take them almost bittersweet. You'd have this lovely kind of rolled sirloin with the fat cover, and then you'd have this beautiful chateau potato that's been turned, glazed in all the trimmings from the beef. And that was it, Ollie. It was just this onions. Same. But if you think about, we all love, don't we, a kind of like a beef potato sort of onion kind of, pie or whatever. But he had sort of taken that, refined it, but not deconstructed it. Yeah. But so it was about this incredible sauce, the way you cook these onions, this potato. But we would go through these potatoes. It was the most popular dish on the menu. So you'd have this big kind of white dustbin filled with ice cold water, and Gary'd be there turning sacks of potatoes, and he's turning
Why is he doing that? Why do you think he's doing that for you guys?
To set the example.
Yeah.
To set the example that I know that I might not be here for a couple of months at a time. I know that I'm filming roads around Britain and television series and writing book after book, but now I'm here and I'm committed to you.
Did it give you, obviously it would be inspiring, but did it also give you the level of a kind of attainability that you could get to his standard in him being so side to side with you?
Yeah, definitely. He was inspiring, and everyone I've worked for. I've not worked for a ton of people, but the people I've worked for have just hugely inspired me. And I go back to that point of a young chef now starting out. Pick the place, visualize yourself there, but don't just pick the place for the food. Pick the place for everything, and watch the person in charge and how they behave and how they act and how they treat people. And I'd look at Gary, I'd look at Gordon, I'd look at Marcus, you know, and how they held their spoon, how they sort of stood at the past, how they just everything. I just was a sponge. And I go back to Paul at school. Now all of a sudden, you know, I just thought, you know, school made me feel like it made me feel a thicko. It just made me feel not very good.
No, you weren't making the world.
And listen, this is no violin, you know, but I wanted to be. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I wanted to be the team captain. I wanted to be good at football. I didn't want to be picked last, but I was, and I was that horrible thing when they picked teams. Yeah. And actually, I didn't even get picked. I was just like last person there, and then they'd be like, Ainsy, jump on that team. And that really does kind of, like it did to me anyway, it really kind of gets you inside. So when I found cooking, and all of a sudden someone started to say to me, you're all right at this, you're good at this. And I could feel like I was good at this. And because of that work ethic, and when I went to college, and when they were all going down the Royal Oak pub in Southampton and, you know, and going out and chilling out on the grass and, you know, smoking weed and doing whatever, I was running back to the Star Hotel with Pete, the German. And I was doing breakfast. So I'd do breakfast. So I'd leave my house at like 4:30 in the morning. I'd do breakfast. I was late for college every day by about 10, 15 minutes by the time I finished breakfast shift. I even had a lecturer that absolutely despised me and said, you know, Ainsworth, you do all right if you could get your ass out of bed early. And I had to keep quiet because I did not want the college to interfere with my workplace, because as much as I wanted to do college, I still wanted to keep earning, and I did not want to stop earning. And then soon as college was finished, I'd run over back to the Star Hotel. But I knew, because working with Pete and another chap called Fred, I was miles ahead of these students in the kitchen, because I was working in a kitchen, and I had no interest in going in dossing and doing all of that. I just wanted to kind of, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't all work. Like, I love to go out, as you probably, you know, with my mates and have a good time. But they knew as well. They knew that I was focused, and at last, sort of, you know, rubbish Paul, how I had sort of like classed myself.
By the sounds of what you're saying.
Purpose, and I ended up winning like the Student Chef of the Year, and like I was on the front page of the Daily Echo, and like, you know, and all of a sudden my mum and dad were like, oh crikey, that's our son. And then it just kept snowballing, because I loved it and I wanted it, and because I just had gone for quite a long time in my sort of early years of, like I say, being a bit rubbish. Now all of a sudden, and I'm not going to say as well that cooking was all, I was just like always top of the game, because trust me, I have been delivered by him, by Marcus, by Gary, by their head chefs, by their sous chefs, by some, you know, incredibly demanding senior chef de parties when I've been at sort of apprentice commie level. But they have all been, for me, character building. They have all been, I've never ever suffered bullying or things that are related to hospitality. Every single one of those people have always, I felt, had my best interests at heart, and seen that I was capable of something and was extracting it out of me.
When you were at Rhodes, did a lot of people not survive?
Yeah.
Why do you think they didn't survive?
Hours.
Right.
Strict environment.
Because this is the 90s, noughties period, right? So it's a slightly different environment to what it is kind of now in a way.
And like I've just said, Gary's not running it. Gary's not there all the time. So you've got chefs, you know, like an amazing, you know, chef, Stephen Smith. Brian will know Stephen. Relentless.
Really?
Absolute machine.
What do you mean by relentless in that context?
Just on it.
Right.
And you can probably see it on the smile on my face. I loved it. And when he was going and when he was on it, I wanted more. Same as him when Gordon was on it and fired and stuff. Secretly inside, it is kind of, your adrenaline is going and you are in fight or flight mode and you're ready for it. But it's addictive. It's kind of rock and, you know, it is. It's a type of rock and roll. It's amazing, and it's not for everyone. And you know what? That's okay. That doesn't make you a failure. That doesn't make you weak. You know, some chefs I know now that have got unbelievable careers and are fantastic in their own right. I've seen them. They've stepped into when I was sort of, say, at Royal Hospital Road and when I was at Rhodes, and they walked. Right. They didn't like it, but they've still gone on to have, you know, amazing careers. It's, you know, it just suited me. Yeah. It suited me because I loved the purpose of it all. I loved the discipline of it all. I remember when I moved to Cornwall and someone was asking me about working at, you know, Royal Hospital Road, and I suppose that's what makes the world go round. People are different. And they were, well, what was it like then? I said, well, yeah, it's just incredible. And you're talking about it and you're like, and I just gave an example of, you know, when you were filleting fish, you had to keep the two fillets from that fish together. If you didn't, you were banging trouble, because you weren't going to serve those two fillets. Because say you were serving, you know, beautiful red mullet dish, and you were giving two fillets, you'd give two fillets from, say, the right hand side of the vertebrae. But I've read a lot of sort of like military books, you know. I know, you know, people that are, you know, in Marines. I've had conversations with people that, you know, that are, you know, being in that kind of SAS world. And there are lots of things in that world that don't necessarily actually you look at and think, well, what's the point? Okay, what's the point? Yeah. But you're missing the point if you look at it like that. The point is discipline, structure. Yeah. Just, you know, discipline in these, like, you know, as a chef, that just everything has a procedure. You know, you're not just taking a load of fillets off of a fish, or, you know, and stacking them all on a white tray. And it was how we had to stack fish, how we had to kind of, you know, look after fish, everything, all little things. Now, does the customer eat that and go, yeah, I can tell that they've, you know, that they've kept the, you know, the fillets uniformed and then they've stacked them like... Probably not. No. But I think it's like, if you look at, you know, an F1 team. Yeah. Actually, from the front car to the back car isn't always huge. It's not a minute's difference. No. It's seconds, sometimes less.
It's hundreds, 1,000s.
Yeah. But it's all the little incremental differences, all the fine margins. They do add up. And that's what I 100% felt and learned when I went from, you know, Gary's was a lot like that, but sort of like then Royal Hospital Road was, you know, was just another level.
Yeah. It's almost like, I guess what you're saying is a lot of chefs didn't understand the reason why, maybe in the early days. And I think that I've experienced that in my work in terms of just understanding why we do things a certain way, because there isn't always a very defined answer as to say, this is the outcome. Yeah. It's almost saying we do it because we do it that way, and it teaches those other factors. Yeah. Why did you leave Gary's place to go to Royal Hospital Road? Because you were only there for 2 years?
Yeah.
Which is, in for those that don't know, in the grand scheme of things, is a long time, a short time. What would you say that is?
Yeah. Back then it felt like a good stint. Felt like a really, really good stint. And I think I would have done longer, but there was this, you know, you got to remember, Gordon's not on TV yet or anything, and there's this show kind of forming called Boiling Point. Yeah. And if you're a chef, you know who he is, and you know that it's exciting, and bearing in mind, I had friends working for Marco Pierre White at the Oak Room. Yeah. I had friends working at Nico Ladenis, 3 stars, Pierre Kaufman, 3 stars. Yeah. And I had lots of mates that had gone from Gary's and then gone straight to sort of that 3-star level. But I don't know, there was just something about Gordon that I just wanted to go and be a part of. And now and again, when I would go home, I'd get the coach, the National Express from Victoria, and it would go down Moor Hospital Road.
Really?
And I would literally always get a seat on the left-hand side, and the coach, I don't know whether it was, by luck or by chance, but it would always seem to sort of like stop in a bit of traffic right by Raw Hospital Road.
Yeah.
And you just look in there, and now, these people, Australian Darren, Rusty, and they're like opening scallops. They're passing, stocks and sauces, through muslin cloth. And I'd want the coach to hold there, and I'd look at it. And one day, our mutual friend brothers, me, Brian, James, Arnie, we used to get Sundays off at Gary's, and we are in the gallery pub outside Pimlico Station. And one of the lads just said, "There's Gordon Ramsay." And he pulled up in a Golf GTI, and he was making a phone call in a telephone box. And I just shot out the pub, waited outside the telephone box for what felt like an age.
Were you nervous?
Massively, because he's a unit. I mean a unit. And he comes out and he's like, "Hello," and I'm like, can't even say my own name. And I just said, "Look, I'd love to come work for you. I really, really would love to come work for you." He said, "Okay, here's a phone number for the kitchen. Mark Askew is the head chef, and if you want to come work for us, then arrange an interview." So I rang Mark Askew. He said, "Yep, come on down." And that,
was it quite common for people to do that at that point?
Yeah, that would be how you would probably. I don't know if it was common to kind of go about it like that, and that, I suppose that was a bit of a sliding doors kind of moment.
Yeah.
And I went there, and the reason I knew I had to go there was because it was like nothing I'd seen. It was electric. It was fun. It was it was intense. It was everything, and it was scary. And like, my mum didn't understand it because she didn't know who Gordon was. Gordon wasn't, like how Gordon is now and known like he is now. But my dad was like, "Look, he knows what he's doing. If he thinks that he wants to go work for this guy," because I had to be really honest with my mum and dad and say to them, "There's a good chance I could get sacked here and not make it. This kitchen is relentless."
Why would that be?
Just because the reputation on the circuit was, Raw Hospital Road is not for the faint-hearted. And if you want to work there, you've got to really want to work there, and you've got to have what it takes, and it's going to be full on. Yeah. Just like I suppose, when a soldier thinks, right, well, I want to be a Royal Marine, or I want to go to the next level, and I want to go to.
There's always a risk.
I want to go to sort of special selection or whatever. That with that, it's going to be incredibly difficult. And I think sometimes people think, but why? Our chefs, they're all this, they're egotistical, they're that. And my first day there, I've got the job.
Right. So you're not staging at this point, you're actually full time.
I've got the job. Right. I've been offered the job. My first day there, I got thrown off service by Gordon. And I was like, holy this has never happened to me before in my life. And I'm you're talking like thrown off service, go down, clean the fridge, service finishes, and I can hear these footsteps coming down the stairs, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm thinking I'm gonna now get an absolute, like, I'm just gonna get turned over now, like absolute bollocking. And he just said, "Come here." And he sat down and he said, "Do you know why I threw you off the service?" And I said, yeah. I said, "I know I did wrong." And he said, "Paul," he said, "when you're doing what we're doing, and when you've, and he told me about the risk and all the money he's borrowed to finance Raw Hospital Road, and it's called Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. And with the greatest respect, that mistake I've made, the expectation that's in the dining room, the diner is at this table for around 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and the clock is ticking. The expectation is through the roof. Who this Gordon Ramsay, he thinks he's the next best thing. Yeah. He's chasing the third star. Yeah. All with that comes an intensity, comes a pressure, and there's never anything other than like, right, right now, we haven't, it's not like the corporate environment where we can just disappear to the, you know, the photocopying room and like, let's talk about it. Hang on, let's go to the boardroom and let's have a sit down and let's work out let's work out what went wrong. You haven't got it. Diners out there, expectation is through the roof. And it's only now, Ollie, you know, when I opened number 6, I then was that person, and I then knew what that pressure felt like when I called the restaurant Paul Ainsworth at number 6, and know that like when people make those mistakes, that it's actually the people leave and they go, yeah, went to that Paul Ainsworth's place, pretty shit, you know, it's pretty average to be honest. Didn't enjoy it. So that pressure is really, really real, and then he then went right back to when he was playing for Rangers. And the devastating, you know, injury.
This is all in the conversation you're having?
All in the conversation. Wow. This is my first day. And it...
Had you really spoken at all with him to the point? So
not,
you're having
not
like
at all. And
a pretty deep, meaningful conversation.
So do you know what else I took from that? So not only did I take from that, yeah, I get it. It's your name above the door, you know. But I also took that it's not all people think, oh, it's all screaming and shouting and that. This is a guy that I am absorbing because he's now taking time to sit me down, tell me why I made the mistake, understand why he had to kind of take me off of the service, but then spend time with me and talk to me and nurture me and guide me. And that's, he still does that now. You know, we still, you know, meet for a coffee now, and I'll say, what do you think about this? And I think, you know, something that's really, really important that I always say to people is it's great to have a mentor. And I've got incredible mentors in my life. You know, I have another mentor in my life that, you know, I've been with now for over 20 years, you know, a chap called Derek, who's more of the business side of things. But, you know, quite often now, Ollie, we aren't great at listening. And that's something that I've always, fortunately, I've had a skill that I've always been a good listener. And if people just realize that if they stopped sort of listening just to reply and actually listen to grow, and you don't always have to be the person in charge of the conversation. You don't always have to be, because I can meet up for coffee with someone like, you know, Gordon, or, you know, like Ross Brawn is a big regular of our restaurants and become like a really, really, you know, great guy and friend. And you know, I took him to St Endoc recently, and you're like with one of the most greatest minds there's ever been. Like you can just see he's just this mind.
Business,
but you know what?
Technical mind, like the whole lot.
Everything. But when I'm with him, all he's interested in is what I'm up to. And he just sort of listens. But then when I've sort of will talk to him about business or this, or it'll give me a comparison to an F1 garage or aerodynamics. But that doesn't have any, I don't know anything about aerodynamics, but it'll give me examples I can relate to that. And then I listen to him. But the fact that I'm sat with someone, you know, did I ever think that I'd be sat with people, you know, like that? But they're great listeners. And the people I absolutely admire in this world, the greatest leaders, are quite often the ones that sit there and listen, not the loud, shouty, I want to be in charge. It's about me. And that for me is something that is, you know, if you want to be a great leader, if you want to get on, listen. And you can see it in people. You can sometimes see in people that they're listening to what you're saying, but they're not. And they're almost like either lifting out their seat, or there's this bundle of energy that's in their core and they're coming out, and they're just like, okay, yeah, I'm listening. I can hear words. Stop talking. And then and you just, I look at people like that and I just think, do you know what? You would be so much better. And I feel you would probably, you know, have so much more to give and be better if you just listen. And that's been a big thing for me. And the mentors I have in my life, the people I've worked for, you know, the ones I truly have taken value from are, Gary was the same. He would spend time with people, and people can look at Gordon and, you know, and they'll have an opinion and they'll see, oh yeah, you know, the shouty, sweary, angry chef. And that. I'm telling you now, when you know people, you know, like, you know, the real Gordon, or you get to know like the real kind of Gary Rhodes and people like that, they are incredible, supportive, nurturing, you know, they guide people. And that my first shift, I mean, he was with me for 45 minutes. You know,
Conversation.
It's conversation, and we're sat Royal Hospital Road downstairs. Used to have a big long soil pipe, and you just sit on that. And we're on this soil pipe, and we're under the road. We're under Royal Hospital Road, sat on the soil pipe, and he's like explaining to me, and he's talking to me about, you know, and that is who I wanted to be. That's who I want to emulate. That's who and all the mentors in my life. And, you know, and when I sort of started Number 6 and I was very sort of angry and, you know, like the only way, you know, the way forward was through kind of, you know, just being like screaming and shouting. And it was, and, you know, and like I say, you know, meeting people like Derek and realizing that actually, you know, if you want to be truly successful in this life, and there are certain ways of being successful in this life, I suppose, you know, maybe if you're a trader on a trading floor, and there are certain people that you know, that will have success through being solo and being very cutthroat. My business is about people, and I quickly learned when I was on my own, and actually if I look back at sort of the great people I've worked for, to surround yourself with incredibly brilliant people. Because if there's one thing I've learned, I don't always have the best idea. If it is my idea, I'm not always the best person to implement it. Now, quite often I'll be the fire starter. I'll, you know, you create the vision, but I know
10%, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I know that there's things that I'm, you know, not the best at. And I know that there's people in my business that are absolutely much better at me, you know, than me in delivering what we want to do. But that again, for me, is what leadership is about. Actually, the greatest thing about it is seeing the individuals that are in our business, you know, like Chelsea Roper, our COO, John Walton, our group cunning director, Paul Dodd, our director of operations, all of our head chefs, our sous chefs, you know, Nicola Dodd, who is called our chief people officer, you know, because we have built this over 21 years through great people, and there's, you know, great people from the past, you know, the present, and great people that will join this business in the future. And that for me is our greatest strength, is our people. And, you know, last year I did again, another pinch me moment. I was asked to do a talk at McLaren, you know, with Deloitte and Google, and it was in front of 150 CEOs that had all flown in from around the world, and they wanted me to talk about sort of, you know, will AI have an effect on sort of my business, but also like this now, you know, what did it take? What does it take? And there was quite a lot of talk about sustainability, and of course, green sustainability is super, super important. But the one thing I think that I really sort of, you know, shocked them with was, you know, there's so much talk about green sustainability, but I don't ever hear many people talking about people sustainability. And that's the thing, that we now have a board and we have a chairman, and we drive, you know, yeah, we've built this on food and drink, but now we aim for perfection with food and drink, you know, so we want to be the same with people. And we make mistakes, and we're not perfect, and we'll get it wrong. But the greatest thing for me is seeing somebody join what we do. And then become a version of themselves they didn't know existed. And once upon a time, I was that, you know, and it can make me emotional when I think back to, like, you know, young sort of teenage Paul, who didn't realize there was a version of himself in there, but through meeting great people, you know, not just the people I know now, Pete the German, you know, Graham and Kevin at Carey's Manor, you know, the people that I then met in London, the people that have had such a early influence on my career, they helped me realize that, like, I had something. And that's what my aim is to do for people within what we do, is to sort of, you know, say, look, you've got something here. Now, sometimes we call it the crossroads. People will get to the crossroads and they will say, it's not for me.
What is that crossroads? Kind of like what they need to do in order to get to where they're going to be, and also who they are now.
Generally, it's at a breaking point.
Right.
They are
for where they are. At that point.
I don't want to do this. It's the hours are a bit unsociable. And again, hospitality's moved on so much in that people aren't doing ridiculous hours, you know, in their working week. But you're also never going to be able to remove the element which when I told my dad I was going to be a chef, in the people want to eat out in the evening, and we have to be there to cater for that. So you are going to always have the unsociable element to it, but you don't have to have the 90+ hour kind of element to it. And that's where hospitality now, I feel, is in such a brilliant place, in that, you know, everyone is work so hard to kind of actually sort of, you can have a brilliant career and you don't have to work, you know, the hours that we all once worked.
Do you think that's because of what was going on in the 90s and noughties in terms of the crazy hours? Because you must have done some crazy hours and probably got close to the crossroads at Royal Hospital Road or wherever you are, maybe that kind of came across. Do you think the industry has changed because it was almost broken?
Yeah, it was almost broken, and I think the new generations coming through just question more. But, and this is now, you know, I am talking about me. Okay, nobody else. I am talking about me. Yes, I didn't question it, but I loved it. And
so you never got close to the crossroads?
Yeah,
you did.
Absolutely. But I never got close to the crossroads because I felt it was the hours. It was always me.
Is it not being good enough?
Yeah. I got sacked at Gary Rhodes, told to leave, pack my shit and go.
For what?
I'd started service and we were in service. I was by now as well, I've reached quite a decent level. I'm a senior chef de partie.
Oh, wow. After 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were flat out, we were short teamed. And anyone that worked for Gary in those years knows that the stocks that you made were immaculate and the method was immaculate.
Right.
And I won't go into the field, but one of the secrets was you would have the big stock pots, you would put them on a low gas and you would bring them to a haze with steam.
Right.
And then you would turn them down even more. You wouldn't even get close to a boil, maybe like a simmer. And the way that you did the veg and the pig's feet and all the bones, instantly you had what looked like gravy instantly. Right. And again, I'm not going to go into because it's too long in the method. But then once it come out, you'd get these racks and you'd push them down and you would then be able to skim them, and then you'd skim and skim and skim. These were on for 3 days. 3 days, one stock, 3 days. As soon as they came off, then the chicken would go on. So now I'm talking about you're making your beef stock, your veal and your beef stock. So I've gone up for service. We're short teamed. I'm late setting up. Service kicks off. We are in for a monster dinner service. And I've not set my timer. I've not gone back downstairs. I've got the gas on kind of full tilt. They've come up and they are boiling. I mean, boiling. I've run downstairs. 3 massive stock pots, 3 days that these things are going to be on.
Is this the third day or is this at the start?
No, this is at the start of the process. Yeah. And it is like your latte there. Basically, it looks like mud. Oh. Like they're all like mud. And chap I'm telling you about, Steve Smith, I can't get away with it. I'm doing everything. I'm literally like, I'm shaking. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I've got to get back up on service. Anyway, he comes down and he sees it and he goes absolutely crazy.
Because it's a genuine mistake you've made.
Genuine mistake.
Like it was just, it just slipped the mind.
And he threw me off the service. He basically grabbed my knife box, like gave it to me like that, and was like, yeah, I'm not going to, like, a lot of explain. I went home, Ollie. I didn't sleep. I cried all night.
How did you actually feel? Did you feel like your career was over?
Everything was over.
Really?
It was over. It was done. I was done.
Was there no part of you at such a young age being at all rational? Was it completely irrational thinking?
Irrational thinking. I'm done. But what's funny is in those, what and still is apparent now is that they've then come in the next morning and gone, fucking hell, we're in the shit today. So I get this phone call from Mike, he was a sous chef. He was awesome as well.
Is his next day?
Yeah, Mike, like, you all right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Steve wants a chat. so I come in and like I'm like, and he's like, Steve's like, yeah, you know, look, it was a bit out of hand last night, and you know, I think you know what you did wrong. And I'm like, yes, Steve. Anyway, all right, all right, stop fucking about. Get upstairs and let's go. Like this. He was like, so you know, he was never gonna go, I'm sorry, I went too far. It was very much like, listen, let's just get on with it. And we did. And again, it was, and I've had kind of many moments like that, you know, in my career where you reach breaking point, you reach the crossroads. And sometimes people get to the crossroads and they will take a path that is, they're not going to continue. They're not going to continue on the path they're on.
Do you think people quit too early?
Definitely.
And what's your advice for someone, maybe in your industry, in terms of being on that crossroads? Because I think it's happening more and more frequently now.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the way that people are working and industries and toughness and what people really want out of work has changed so much from your time, but even from my time, the last 10 years of being, 10, 15 years of being in work, like it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
What's your advice to someone who's at a crossroads right now?
They need to understand that we are living in a world where people are going to watch this, Ollie, you know, what we're talking about now. And we live in a world of self-help, and we live in a world of Bruce Lee quotes, and everyone's saying, you know, what to do and how to live. And there's some really great advice out there. There really, really is. And I hope that people have found this really, really helpful when they watch it, or inspiring.
Yeah.
But the one bit that it all boils down to, you can read every quote, you can read every book, you can watch every podcast, but the thing that I have had that I feel has been my strength that I've always like leaned into is, I'm telling you now, Ollie, I'm not the most talented chef, I'm not the most talented person in the room, I'm not the most successful person, but what I've always had is a belief. I've never stopped showing up. I've never once given up or said, I'm going to take a different path. I'm going to, now I maybe have pivoted, I maybe have adapted, I maybe have gone, right, I need to change it. That's, those actual decisions have mainly come more in business.
It's self-awareness as well, isn't it?
Yeah, right? Self-awareness. Yeah. But so many people don't realize that they are on the edge of getting their greatness, making it, but they then just quit, and they justify it in their mind. And if you're telling yourself that I'm going to go here because, yeah, it's easier, but this and that, and you're telling yourself these things and you're building all these things up in your mind, then I'm telling you, it is your thoughts. And those thoughts it's just a voice. It's a voice that you either choose to listen to, or you actually look at your voice as a bit like a member of the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at your voice as a member of the board. Okay. Yeah. You've had your say, you've got something to say, but I'm the CEO. I'm in charge. You're not in charge. You're just a voice. And you have got the opportunity. You're the one that has got the say in what you want to do. And I think if anyone, do you know what? There's a really refreshing thing, you know, I saw recently. It was a great thing, you know, like when Michael Jordan sort of saying, well, maybe I made it look too easy.
Yeah.
And I think that don't get me wrong, it's brilliant to see all of this stuff. It's brilliant to watch all of this stuff on YouTube and online and all of that. But don't kid yourself that once cameras have stopped rolling, once microphones are turned off, it's just the relentless day to day. And that is where the success takes place. That is where the growth takes place. And I'm not going to bullshit. Quite often it can be miserable. Yeah. If I look back to like number 6, and still now it's a different kind of misery. They're like, you know, people look now and they see this and they see the collection and they see all of the things that you have in that. But it is hard, and quite often it is really, really dark, and it can be miserable and stuff. But also as well, I know it can be beautiful, and I know it can be amazing, and I love it, and I enjoy it, and I want to be and inspirate there's 3 people in my life that I want to absolutely, you know, like inspire, and that's my wife Emma and my daughter Cece and my youngest daughter Audrey. And then after them, I want to be the biggest inspiration to my team. I want to be the biggest inspiration I can to them. And do you know what? That doesn't just come through cooking or running businesses. That comes through being a healthy version of Paul, because that's also a demon and a place that I've fought all my life from school, from being, you know, the overweight kid, the sort of, you know, like I say, I wanted to be good at football. I wanted to kind of be good at basketball and all the school sports. But the reality was I wasn't, you know, I was always, you know, way overweight and, you know, a big lad. And then sort of that went into my teenage years and stuff. And, you know, in the last few years, I've found fitness, and I look at people like Gordon who have, you know, taken being a chef to a different level. It doesn't have to be about sort of, you know, alcoholism and drug taking and just not looking after yourself and not eating. You can be a fantastic chef, and there are other great examples out there. I add and buy it.
Yeah.
You know, Phil Howard, Tom Kerridge. You know, Tom Kerridge is, you know, like
Turn his life around.
one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
I've been with 30 stone Tom Kerridge drinking, you know, 7 pints in 7 minutes to then seeing him swim a mile a day every day, and just seeing him like literally lose the equivalent of 2 people in weight. Sat Baines, again, someone that I've known a long time that's always been conditioned and strong. And these guys have inspired me to sort of be, I don't want to, you know, you don't have to be sort of, you know, like unhealthy to kind of do or be, you know, in hospitality. And then
it was quite accepted in your industry in a weird way. Not accepted is maybe the wrong word, but it was just very common for a long period of time, right? Like chefs working so hard and running like a Ferrari with a terrible engine inside, you know, and not looking after it at all.
Absolutely. And that's something that I'm telling you, the byproduct of being fit, that what that has on my family and the effect that that's had, Ollie, you know, on my team, when one of, you know, like, you know, John will say, well, I'm going to enter the London Marathon, and, you know, or like, you know, I want to do a half Ironman, or Chelsea, our COO, who, you know, goes swimming 2 or 3 nights a week, or Paul Dodd, who, you know, goes into open water swimming. And you can tell, you know, because you know, you're inspiring them. You're sort of saying that, you know, you know, you've got to look after yourself, you know, nutritionally, you know, hydration, everything. And that's probably up there with the most important, as important as sort of the cooking and the front of house and and everything I want our establishments to be known for. You know, that to me, it's made me a better leader, a better husband, a better dad. And then when you're sort of, you know, the last Ironman I was at was in Greece, and my eldest daughter Cece, and she's you know, that was her 4th finish line she'd been on with me. And she puts her arms around me, and she puts the medal like round my neck, and she's like pointing up at the gantry. So, you know, it was my fastest ever time as well. You know, I got a 5:30, a 5:29.
Wow.
But she was 9, and she's like, Daddy, look at the time. And then we'd finished, and the atmosphere was incredible, and the finish line's on the beach, and she just looked at me and she was like, Daddy, I just find this so inspiring. And she was just looking at. She's not just looking at me, she's looking at everyone there. It's got their reason, their why, their sort of what they've done to get here, and the emotion and what it takes to get across to get to the finish line, or to get to the start line.
I was going to say that, yeah.
That's the thing, to get to the start line.
You went on quite a long journey just to get to the first start line, right?
Yeah. And people say to me, what inspired you to do those? I'll say, you know, Gordon Ramsay, you know, again, you know, he was a massive inspiration, still is, as a chef and as a businessman, and you know, and all of those. And you know what as well, you know, my mentor, you know, one of the, you know, the greatest people in my life, you know, Derek, you know, he's 74 years old. His wife is 76, 78, and they are in the gym every morning. You know, doing like, you know, 10,000 steps, or, you know, like band work and stuff like that. And I look at, you know, Derek, he's 74, and he's as sharp as a razor. And I'm 46, and I'm just so aware that I want to be that person now, so that I can, you know, I always say to Emma, you know, I want to, look at Emma in the eye when we're 80 years old and say, we're here, we made it.
Yeah.
That to me, and I've got to put that work in now. I don't just want to be a busy fool, pulling my hair out, running from kitchen to kitchen, running, and being, he was a great businessman, because no one thanks you for that.
No.
Customers don't thank you for
course.
that long term. They enjoy and they love the businesses and stuff. But I want to do this, but I want to do it in a healthy, sustainable way. I don't want to burn myself into the ground. And I enjoy, and the other thing I love about it, and that's what inspired me when I heard Gordon talking about why he did Ironmans and stuff, and it was to sort of not just the weight loss and all of those things, it was to sort of have something to take him away from the chaos and the madness. Because it's chaos and madness.
But it's almost another
running.
goal, right? Like the fitness element, and you're kind of growing towards that goal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your personalities massively is always focused on that. One quick question I do have is, when you're in Royal Hospital Road, did you, in that actual couple of years that you were there, did you realise that you were growing when you were there, or did you only realise after you left?
After I left.
Because coming back to the crossroads piece we were speaking about, I think a lot of people get to that point where they don't realise how far they've come.
Yeah.
And they also don't realise that you join a restaurant, you join a kitchen, you join a business, and you're like, I want to grow. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I employ people. I get that a lot. That's always something in interview. I'm sure you've had it many times.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really know what growth looks like when they're in it.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I totally agree with you. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that, because I think that in its way or in itself is a superpower.
Right.
Because, and I'll tell you why. We live in a world now where we can see everything, we have access to everything, and we are all guilty of comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And when you remove that, and just because we live in a world of social media, you can still remove comparison, because no matter what, comparison steals joy.
Yeah.
And when you don't have comparison, when you are just doing you, and when you are putting one foot in front of the other, turning up, don't stop turning up. I never ever thought about, well, one day I want to have this many businesses, I want to have this many, sort of interests and assets and all of those things. Not once. Mm-hmm. All I ever thought about was being in the moment and where I was. Now that is a lot harder to do now for myself,
right?
For like generations coming through now, because this is here to stay. We live in an information digital, led world. But that doesn't mean to say that you're just got to live your life, miserable, comparing, well, I want to be where they are and I want to have what they have. Because if you live your life like that, then, I try not to swear, but you really are fucked if you live your life like that.
Like social is actually the problem. It's how we consume it.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem.
Absolutely.
It's not, you can't just, we always want to find a blame and an excuse.
Social media is a great thing.
Yeah.
Social media can be brilliant. I've learned so much from social. I've been inspired by social media.
It's really changed your business.
Social media has changed our businesses, when we're getting it out there, and like, again, all this, influencers, all of that, they have an effect. Mm-hmm. We see it. We did it last year. Last year we said, right, we want to have a nice amount of influencers with Crab Communications, our PR company, and come down to Cornwall and show Cornwall and sort that, and see what our businesses are doing in Cornwall. And it had a huge effect on, what is quite a tough time, right now in hospitality. But going back to what you're saying, for me, I just wanted to always be working somewhere good. And as long as I was always learning and driving and had purpose. And then once you have your craft, once you have your repertoire, okay, that doesn't just have to be as a chef. You've got a repertoire, you've got your craft, and you know what you're doing. Yeah. Then it then becomes about like, right, what's the next opportunity? And again, making decisions, maybe pivoting, maybe doing something different, adapting. And again, I didn't get that right, at first. I left the Gordon Ramsay stable and went to sort of open a restaurant for a family. It didn't work out. And I thought, oh, crikey, what have I done? What do I do now?
When you were going to leave Gordon, what was the conversation like?
Yeah, I mean, back then it was a very, very different time. So it was, I think, you worked your way up, and then there was so many opportunities within, the Gordon Ramsay group, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
There was Gordon always had, the next opening, and I don't know what it was, if I'm honest, Ollie. I don't know why I just wanted to go and do something for myself, just away from it. And I opened a restaurant for a family in Kent, for a few months. It wasn't for me. And at that point, I just did not know what I wanted to do.
You feel a bit lost at that point?
Yeah, I did. It was the first time, I think, in my sort of chef career where it almost felt a little bit like that leaving school moment I told you about. I'm like, what do I do now? And I toyed with going abroad, and then, but what had happened, this restaurant that I'd opened in Kent for this family, one of the chefs that I was with said, look, before we all part ways, my dad was thinking of buying a restaurant in Cornwall. So you're like, okay. So we all had a conversation, and I said, okay, there could be, an opportunity. I'd never sort of really seen my life, in Cornwall. So I met with his dad. And we had a conversation, and he said, look, I was going to buy this restaurant for my son, but, he's really enjoyed working with you. And I had no idea that, Chris, about his family or anything.
Oh, right. It was a completely random surprise.
Yeah, random. And he said, he's really enjoyed working with you. And, we'd like you to be the head chef, and we'll just go from there. So
have you been a head chef before at this point?
No.
So
never been a head chef, but before at this point, little stint at this restaurant in Kent. So I'm like, right, okay. So again, spoke to my mum and dad, as I always did. My mum wasn't sure. My dad was like, well, look, if you think you can trust this person. So we had a meeting, drove down here, and what's remarkable is the year before that happened, whilst I was still working for Gordon and Marcus Waring, I had come down here with a girlfriend on a motorbike for a weekend. I just bought this Yamaha R6, rode all the way from London to Cornwall, and stayed in Padstow in Customs House. And next day, walking around Padstow town like a tourist. And it was all because, it's crazy, life and this story, all because one of the chefs at Petrus was an ex-Rick Stein chef. And I said, oh, I've always wanted to eat the seafood. It'd be a great ride for the motorbike and stuff like that. He said, yeah, I'll get you a table. So wanted to eat at Rick Stein's. On the Saturday, the night before we ate at Rick Stein's, I'm walking around the town, and I actually stood outside what's now Jules, which was called Pro Surf, looking at number 6. Just like there, while basically my girlfriend at the time had walked into the spa shop to get some bits. So at that point, if somebody had tapped me on the shoulder and said, Paul, this time next year, you're going to be not only working there, but you're going to be living here. You're going to be living in Cornwall.
That's mental.
And then the guy that got me the table at Rick Stein's?
Yeah.
John Walton, our now group culinary director.
No way.
Yeah.
That is so mad. What a full circle moment.
Because John is Padstow. John is a Padstow born and bred lad. So I think, when I say to people about, or like you've asked me, Ollie, work hard, continually put those hard yards in when no one's looking, when you're just doing it and it doesn't feel like it is going anywhere, but you're working somewhere good and you're being valued. Just keep going, keep showing up, because you just never know where the next kind of opportunity, the next sliding door moment happens. And so many of those things have happened. And we've just had quite a moment, haven't we, where, we've got sort of Gordon Ramsay interrupting, our podcast that we're doing together. But, I joined Gordon when I was 21 years old as an apprentice commie chef. And, never in a million years did I ever think that, one, I'd have my own places, but, I'd have a pub and he has a house in Rock, and he comes down here. And I think to answer your question probably best, fast forwarding, now is I just know that he's, incredibly proud. Is he proud that sort of I left and I got on and I did something for myself and by myself with the help of lots of people. 'Cause you have to, lots of people, but I did something without the help of Gordon. But now I have my places that he enjoys coming to, but I also still talk to him for lots of things, and I'll ask his opinion on lots of things, and what do you think about this, and what about this, and and he's amazing. He's amazing. So he's still a mentor, and I think it's amazing to have mentors in your life. They are so important because there's no better learning. You can learn from books, you can learn from podcasts, you can learn from self-help, platforms, but actually speaking to people that you trust that have been there and done it.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
You can't beat that.
You can't beat it.
The obviously you made the move down here, leaving London as a chef at the level you were at that point, because you obviously had the thing in Kent that didn't quite work out, which is a little bit closer to London. Yeah. But leaving the London, let's call it the London food scene, were you worried about that?
Yeah, I was hugely, and people thought I was bananas opening something or going to just do something in what is Rick Stein territory, town, land and stuff, but it never scared me. I always try to look at everything with that just great optimism, positivity, always just bring energy, and I definitely got that from my dad. My dad was always, he was just always glass half full, always.
Yeah.
And that definitely is in me. And what I find is one of, my strengths that's got me on and, and gets me through in life is just always looking at everything with, well, what if, what if, but what if in a good way? What could it work? And well, why is that a negative? Because like Derek said to me when, he got the restaurant, in Padstow, which back then was number 6 before me and Emma took it over, he was like, look, Rick's done, wonders, turned Padstow and, made it into this kind of gastronomic, place. But they won't want to eat with Rick every night of their holiday. Be the second night, be the third night restaurant. Don't compete, compliment him.
Yeah.
And
was the competition between the two of you?
Not really. Not that I've ever felt.
Yeah.
I made sure that I was totally respectful and still am. I moved to Cornwall because of what Rick had done to Padstow, and I just made sure that I took that advice from Derek in don't compete, compliment. And we found our own groove, and then Great British Menu came knocking in 2011. And that I think was the changing point.
Before then, because I think I found a video from about 14 years ago of you in number 6 talking about when you first got there and taking it over, it was slow.
Yeah.
And I think there's a story you told about going to the cinema because it was so slow and so dead.
Shocking.
Was it really that bad? Were you worried at that point?
Yeah, because you got to remember the environments I've come from.
Yeah.
And the dining rooms and the kitchens and the people I've come from, and I'm like, have I made the right decision? Because Ollie, we were selling sandwiches and scones and tea cakes to put money in the till
at number 6.
And when I say sandwiches, I'm not talking about the sandwiches you see, online now, gastronomic sandwiches. I'm talking,
packed lunch vibes.
Packed lunch vibes, cheese and pickle, cheese and ham, and
how do you deal with that mentally for you? I would feel like it must be really painful for you to know, like, you've taken this risk, you've got the self-doubt, is this working? Where am I going to go? How do you stay stable there?
By clutching onto the people that I know that were looking.
Right.
That didn't necessarily want me to fail, but were questioning my decisions and questioning my choices.
That was a motivator.
They were my fuel. And there's a lot more people like that in my life now, like Ollie. And trust me, I think, sometimes people, think, Smiley Paul and all of those kind of things, you don't get to, or I haven't got to where I've got to in this life by, being a mug or, and I say to people, never mistake kindness for weakness. And there are people I know that, they're not happy for you. They don't want to sort of celebrate my success, our success. And that's okay. And there's people that have really shit on me and let me down, and who I've really, really helped. And I've really, really, just done everything I can for. But you know what? That's okay. Yeah. That's not going to change me. That's not going to make me sort of become, don't trust anyone, or, don't have anyone, close to you and stuff. Not at all.
Is it the feeling of being taken advantage of in work? I think that's one of the things I struggle with the most personally, is that feeling where you're trying to be a good employer, you're trying to be good to the customer, whatever that is, right? Good to your suppliers, etc. It's that feeling of, like you say, kindness for weakness. It's the advantage of, like, I was trying to do a good thing. I was trying to do it the right way.
Yeah.
It's hard to manage the anger that can come out the back of that sometimes, though, right? Because you're kind of like so frustrated that why can't they be on your level?
Ollie, every CEO, every entrepreneur, every leader, every owner has had their fair share of people take advantage of them, shit on them, take the piss out of them, and people secretly behind closed doors who are watching your every move, wanting you to fail. They, from the moment I moved here to now, and there's people now, they are a big part of the fuel. And I don't say that in a, it's
not bitter for you.
In a bitter way. It's not bitterness, because my philosophy is you can achieve absolute greatness in this life. You don't have to be a prick to people, but don't be a pushover. And that's where...
Is that a hard balance?
That's where, it's a hard balance. Yeah. And that's where I always say, and it's something my dad always taught me, never mistake kindness for weakness, Paul. And it's a really simple saying, but actually it's a really good one, because it's just because you're kind doesn't mean you're weak. Just because, he seems a nice guy, he's always smiling. Well, yeah, of course I am, because I'm not going to, life's exhausting to be a twat. Do you know what I mean? It's exhausting. Why? It's just not in my DNA. I love helping people. I like to sort of, if I can offer somebody something, I like being generous. I like to, and if somebody misconstrues that, takes the piss out of that, wants to sort of, do wrong by you, then okay, more for them. But one thing I am good at is I'm good at cutting people out like that, because as I've got older, I've realized those people are energy thieves, and they steal energy from you in all kinds of guises. And I've got no problem in sort of cutting those type of people out of my life. And also as well, I've never, ever once ever been, uncomfortable with having, that hard conversation. Never.
In terms of getting rid of people,
never,
or
if I'll never ever shy away from anything. If I've got to step up, if I've got to have that really difficult, sometimes very confrontational conversation, bring it on. I will go into it, because I know that I've got to do that. And that's where it comes down to. You don't have to be a prick in life. No. But don't ever be a pushover. Don't ever shy away from it, and because that's when kindness has gone too far.
Yeah, got it.
We're not. If that's how you want to be, there's that funny thing. If you want to be that person, then go sell ice cream.
Yeah.
It's. It's
because also at that point you're not being kind to yourself.
No, you're not. Yeah. You're not, and you're allowing people to take the piss out of you, and that's the important thing. And that's the thing I think, and it's a great question you ask, is that difficult? And I know why you've asked that, because I think so many people think you've got to be one or the other. Yes. You've got to constantly almost put this mask on,
especially in your industry.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a conception that you've got to be what you see on TV.
Yeah.
That Boiling Point will stick around for a long time because people reference that every single day.
Yeah.
Shows like The Bear, I've spoken about this with many people on the podcast, like people have got this conception of it. But I think maybe my question to you is, as an advice piece, if someone is trying to be a great leader, but they struggle with the hard, almost having to be a hard person and having to be the bad guy, let's call it, what advice would you give them?
It's not as hard as you think. And we all learn, don't we, at school to stand up to the bully. And actually, if anyone's ever stood up to the bully, you actually realise it's not as bad as what you thought it was going to be. And I learned early on, really, really early on, that when I've stood up to the bully, I'm not talking about the playground fight where the adrenaline's flowing and you're thinking, Christ, I'm going to get a punch to the face and stuff like that. Because I've also been in that situation. I'm talking about just go for it. Deep breath, rehearse. Just sort of, but don't shy away from it. Do not
beat around the bush.
Do not beat around the bush with it.
Yeah.
Do not try and sugarcoat it and go, oh, well, no, perhaps it's not best coming from me. Perhaps it's best coming from my, my COO, or perhaps it's best handing off. Don't. You have got to step up, because if you want to move forward, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be a true leader, you have got to run into the fire.
Is it a key element of growth? That's
absolutely. And one of the best books I ever read on holiday was by Simon Sinek, and it's Leaders Eat Last. And if you wanna sort of get a bit of a fire in your belly, and if you are struggling with that, read that book.
Yeah.
And that book is all about sort of, what it takes. And it's not all shouting and screaming, but it's not allowing anyone to ever take the piss out of you. If somebody is talking shit, if somebody is essentially almost like a disease in your corporation, in your network, in your business, they have to be eliminated, and you have to remove that, because the damage that can have, because it spreads, especially as you grow, it spreads into the culture. And you've got to be on top of that, and you have got to be the one that sets the example. And it's not easy.
No.
I cannot give advice and say, oh yeah, it's easy. It's not easy. And some people find it really, really uncomfortable. But then you've got to question, well, who do you want to be? And if you want to be, that person you visualize, that manifestation you have, that sort of, where you see yourself and what you want, you have to be. And again, we see it all, don't we? And I try not to do, I've tried today, with yourself, because there's just, I feel so many people walking around at the moment just spurting and spouting out stuff that they see, like I say, I go back to like the Bruce Lee quotes.
Yeah, underqualified opinions.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't ever want to be that, and be comfortable with the uncomfortable and all of those sorts of things. But you've just got to lean into it, and that's probably one I sort of do. I sometimes actually almost physically kind of almost grip my teeth and lean in, like almost feel myself kind of lean into it.
Feels more real, doesn't it?
It does feel more real, and sometimes, if I know I'm going into something that's going to be very, very difficult, I'll rehearse, because, from having the television experience and stuff like that, like everything I do, I take ultra serious. If I'm going on Saturday Kitchen, I'm turning up there to do a job like I'm going into service. Really? It's not, it's a bit of TV, it's a bit of fun or stuff like that.
Some will prep it for me, some will all that kind of stuff.
If I'm going into a brand partnership, if I'm going into a demonstration, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm going in ultra focused. I'm there to do a job. I'm not here to, because, this is the cool side of what I do and stuff like that, because all these things can lead to other things, and these things are important. You're there to do a job. I'm there to sort of make sure that when people watch Saturday Kitchen, or they see me on a show or a Sunday brunch or something like that, that they go, I've never heard of this bloke. He's got places down in Cornwall. We're going down to Cornwall this year.
Yeah.
Go and check out one of his places. And then this is where the magic sort of takes place, and, giving you some sort of nuggets of what's worked for me is, so because people say to you, so the telly, do you like it? Do you do it? Yeah. One, I do like it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I do like it. I enjoy it. I take it absolutely ultra serious, and I'm focused with it, and I want to deliver a good job, whether it's whatever I'm doing, I want to do a good job, because you never know who's watching, and you never know if that's a new customer, you know, a customer that a regular, whatever. So then they watch the show and then they say, do you know what, we'll go and check him out. We like what he's about, and so I've never heard of him, but let's go and see it. And then when they come and see it, it lives up to expectation. And then when it lives up to expectation, we are all wrapped up in the success of it. It's not about me. It's not just about me going and doing the show. Everyone's benefiting from it, because then the trunk, they leave a good tip, and the trunk gets bigger. And we get bigger, and we aren't just, oh yeah, saw him on telly, but yeah, went there. Yeah, another chef on TV. What a load of shit. You know, they're like...
Do you think the TV stuff gives pressure to the team?
Yeah, of course it does. But we talk about it as a team,
really,
and all the team, and that's what I say. And I love that analogy that we are all wrapped up in each other's success. Because then they're wrapped up. It's not just about me going and doing the show. It's then everybody is wrapped up in it, because then we grow, and then when we grow, positions open up, salaries get bigger. You know, bonuses and profit shares, and which we do within our businesses. And like I say, our trunk system and everything, it all grows, and we all get wrapped up in it. And that's the beauty of getting the magic of it right. It's never about, oh yeah, you know, because if I'd wanted to, you know, be famous, then I would have gone to drama school or gone to, you know,
or you would just do the TV stuff and way more, right? And not have the sites of the restaurants, probably.
You know, like I say, when I came into this, it was, you know, Delia and Anthony Warrell Thompson, Gary Rhodes. You never went, when I became a chef, you never went into it because you thought, oh, there's a chance of being famous. Not. You had celebrity chefs, but you just thought, well, that's what they do. I'm just going to be a chef. But our industry has evolved into that, and now you have to be everything. You have to be a great chef. You have to be a great businessman. You have to be great front of house. You have to be great media. You have to be, you know, great on TV. If you're going to do, you know, if you do go down that road, you don't have to go down that road. You have to be brilliant at marketing. You have to have and wear so many hats in order to make it work. And it can work. And there's so many people right now doing a brilliant job at it. I'm not going to deny it's really, really tough at the moment. And yeah, we all know, you know, without getting into politics, that this government, you know, are not making it. You know, I think not making it any easier is drastically, you know, sort of dampening it down. It's, you know, for me, it's a disaster. But, you know, I can't sort of get, you know, I can't kind of make that my focus. Right? I've just got to be like, right, okay, well, I'm 21 years into this. This is my livelihood. And right, what do we need to do? What do we have to do to adapt? And anyone right now, just, you know, just keep going, you know, don't stand still, just look at it. For some people, there's just not an option. For some people, they just cannot get the numbers to work. They cannot get the punters through the door. And that is,
you've been through quite a lot.
Devastating.
In your 5 locations now, soon to be 6. You've gone through, I mean, you went through a little bit of the economic downturn in 2008. You've gone through COVID, various different governments, and now where we are today. For the 5 locations you have, how have you guys survived?
If I was to say, how have we survived?
And grown, actually, in that same time.
Yeah. Just being on and all over the stuff that quite a lot of, I would say, chef-led businesses don't feel is necessarily important, or they don't want to put the work in to look at those things. And what I mean by that is, and this goes back to having a great mentor in someone like Derek. I used to be that person. When I opened number 6, I just wanted to, it was about my ego, it was about the food, and it was about what I wanted to cook. I didn't know the true cost of that dish. And then I met somebody that showed me the true cost of that dish. And it was a sea bass dish. It was the first time I'd ever costed a dish on a spreadsheet.
Had you not done that at Hospital Road or anything
because
like that?
Gordon Ramsay Holdings big
Right,
office. So
got it.
we would do the
Sorry.
stock count, and then we would produce a stock count, and then as long as we were making 70% margin, we were that
Sweet.
was our job.
Got it. So this is your first kind of business experience.
Business experience, and I'm full of ego, aren't I? Because I've come from Gordon and Marcus and Gary and these amazing chefs, and I've got the first dish we cost is this sea bass dish, wild sea bass, and I always remember the cost of it was going to be £35,
The cost of it.
as in to put on the menu to the customer
Right. Oh, sorry.
in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to Dale, well, I can't charge £35 for it. You know, one, nobody knows who the hell I am,
Yeah.
and that's way too expensive. Thinking he'd go, okay, well, we'll just charge less.
Like
And he
30 quid instead.
Yeah, and he just stayed silent. And I looked at him and he went, so what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? Well, we'll just charge less. He went, what do you mean charge less? He said, I've just shown you that there's your VAT,
Mm-hmm.
there's your 5% wastage, there's your nominal ingredients, the bit of oil you're going to put in the pan, the butter to baste it, the thyme, the seasoning. This is how granular
Yeah.
we're talking.
Yeah.
Then the column above, the box above, was the sea bass itself, all of the different components going with
trimmings
it,
and stuff, yeah.
then the nominal ingredients, then the VAT, then the wastage, then the margin that we needed to make, which back then was 70%. So I went, okay. And I knew he meant business, and it was his business. I was just head chef. It was his
Oh, yeah, of
business.
course, when you
It's
first got
him
down,
and his
yeah.
son. So I'm like, okay. So I put a mackerel dish on, and I remember it was mackerel, and it was some lovely, like a vinaigrette of like roasted peppers and
nice.
couscous. It was still a lovely dish, but boy, did my ego take a beating, because it wasn't what I truly wanted to do. And I'm like, for me, I've come from this environment, and back then, Ollie, mackerel was in cafes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know, chef like me didn't cook mackerel, you know, and it was a huge wake up call, and I loved it and I enjoyed it, and it became addictive, and it showed me that, right, well, this is what I need to do to run a business efficiently on food, but that's just food. Then I had to learn the liquor GP and what I needed to get from liquor, and the wastage that comes with, I wanted to have a wine list where there was, like dozens of wines by the glass, but the more wines you have by the glass, if you're not selling that wine, and there wasn't systems like Ver de Van and all of those kind of things then. So I had to get really smart with that. And then wage percentage. Well, I've come from an environment where we've got 3 or 4 kitchen porters with us every day. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at the wages, and it's like, yeah, but your wage percentage is going to be over 28%. So, but you're not busy enough. You haven't got the occupancy, because no one knew who we were. We were busy Friday and Saturdays.
Right.
That's the restaurant we were.
Right.
The rest of the week we were dead. So now I'm doing the washing up. So when you say about...
You did the washing up?
Yeah. So when you say about the fall from grace and kind of coming down here, and nobody knows who we are. So I'm washing up. I can't afford kitchen porters. I can't cook the food that I think I want to cook. I'm making sandwiches. We're pumping out scones and pastries. And by the way, we're not pumping out gourmet scones and making French laminate patisserie pastries. We're buying pastries in from Booker's and trying to knock them out with a couple of quid extra on them with fondant icing. And the hoping that this is going to take off and that people are going to enjoy it, and slowly but surely they did. And we were busy when the children were off school, because that's what it was like in Cornwall back in those days. And then fast forward to Great British Menu, I got asked to do Great British Menu, which in itself was just a massive shock. And
Really?
Yeah, just like,
Really?
because you see this show.
Yeah.
And this is the first bit of TV I've ever done.
Every chef that's been on this podcast says it's the one show that every chef also watches as well.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, it is. And let me tell you, you can sit there as an armchair chef that's never done it and criticize the chef that's on it. But I tell you what, when you walk into that kitchen, especially with the older kitchen that used to be filmed in Camden,
Yeah.
Christ almighty, it's a baptism of fire. You walk in there, there's cameras everywhere, and you realize you are just a small cog in a very, very kind of big sort of turning wheel. And it is brutal. And I got through to finals week, and then I got to the banquet. And on finals week, back then, Oliver Paynton, my fish course went into finals week, and it was Richard Corrigan was the guest chef judge. It was Richard Corrigan, obviously Matthew Fort, Prue Leaf, and Oliver Paynton, and they all loved it, and they gave me 10 out of 10. And Oliver Paynton said, I urge everyone to get to Padstow. There's a new kid on the block. And when that aired, I had no idea he said that. And the only time I learnt that he said that was when it aired. And I am telling you, mate, back then as well, we had no infrastructure then, or the systems that we have now. The telephone was a cordless phone, and the cordless phone was connected to the chip and pin machine. So when we had one line, but we were like, oh yeah, but when people are paying, we're not answering the phone. But the phones went ballistic, so the chip and pin wouldn't work, and vice versa.
Problems you never thought you'd have ever.
The website just completely crashed every day, and we had this kind of like 2bob website, and like there's a bloke ringing us up saying, "Oh, your website, I don't know how to fix it. It just keeps crashing," and stuff. And it was just amazing, and I do sort of credit that sort of Great British Menu and that kind of. Especially as well, because I had more airtime, because I did well in regionals, so you get a week of filming. Yeah. Then I did well in finals week, so you got another week of filming. And then you got the banquet, which you win, so you get a lot of airtime. And then you've got sort of comments like that from Ollie, and then I got the the famous fairground dessert to the banquet. And it just put us on the map. Yeah.
And was that changing everything from Booker sandwiches to...
everything to everything. It just.
Do you think the humbling moment that you had where things weren't going right going on the show, do you think that was really important to be successful today?
Definitely. Everything, the sandwiches, the pastries, not doing any customers, going to the cinema 3 nights in a row, to watch, different films because no one turned up. All of just the pure grit and determination to just keep going, keep hustling, don't stop, lose the ego that what do you want, Paul? Do you want to have your own restaurant? And are you too good to make a sandwich? Are you too good to serve a scone? Or just keep believing that it won't always be like this. Yeah. It will come. And it goes back to your question with, do you think people kind of give in too early? Definitely. I think there would have been a lot of people, a lot of chefs now, especially chefs now, that would have been in my shoes and gone, fuck this is, I haven't.
They'll go back to London, wouldn't they?
I haven't worked in a 1-star, a 2-star, a 2-star that's then gone to a 3-star. Worked for, Gordon Ramsay, Gary Rhodes, Marcus Waring, all the experience to now be fucking making sandwiches and, serving cream teas and pastries and all of those sorts of things that we were doing then. But I just kept going. Yeah. I can't really give you a defining.
It's kind of it in a way though, isn't it? Yeah. It's just that's all it really needs to be sometimes.
Yeah.
You just have no matter what you've done in your past, when things aren't going right, keep going. Yeah. Keep pushing through.
Yeah.
I know we're going to run out of time soon, especially with the storm coming in from France. But what I do want to ask you about is your new project.
Yes.
Because this thing, we were talking about it before we started filming. You've got everything on the line on this one.
Yeah.
So for the remaining couple of minutes we've got, tell me everything about it and why you're doing this now at this point in your career.
Yeah, I'm going to be really honest because I think it's good to be really, really, really honest and stuff. And I don't mind, there's certain things I think, you don't share, but this is make or break for myself and Emma and everyone, my team that, involved with me. Me and Emma have personally remortgaged our home. We've remortgaged our businesses. We've borrowed an obscene amount of money.
Right.
To fund this and to do it. And I'm 46 years old and it's now or never, Ollie. It's now or never. And it's a huge risk. It's a calculated risk, but I believe in it. And I believe that St Endoc is a sleeping giant and it's Rock's only hotel.
Yeah. And
I've absolutely wholeheartedly believe in the vision that we have for this by making it a destination like where we're sat now that is for everybody. Mm-hmm. It is not a hotel that's just for its residents and just for lots and lots of sort of space where people wander around and go from lounge to lounge, sipping on a flat white. It is for everyone who is coming to Cornwall, who lives in Cornwall, who is local, to know that St Endoc is a place that has got the most beautiful, stunning views of the Camel Estuary and beyond. And if you are down here on a camping holiday, a caravan holiday, or you're in a 10 grand a week holiday home, or you are local and you live here and you've grown up here, come on up, sit on the terrace, sit in the grill, sit in the gardens, have a drink. It is for everybody, as well as the hotel guests. And I believe in it, and Emma believes in it, and we've put our absolute, as we do with everything. Our last opening was where we're sat here now, Ollie, which was the Mariners. And failure is it's just non-negotiable. I visualize it. I talk about it. I behave like it's done. I behave like it's successful already, and it is. And I just know that this is. It's almost like feels kind of legacy. This.
That was my question to you. Is this the sort of stake in the ground on the legacy?
Yeah, and I think, you know, people look at what we've done, and I will say to you that more judgment than luck that I've resisted London. I've had offers to go to the Middle East,
to go back to London,
you know, and stuff. And a lot of chefs, you know, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, you know, these places, you know, there's huge wealth there and create busy restaurants. And
arguably it's easier
London,
as well, like in a way, just because of the kind of cash that's in that place.
Yeah, and, you know, license deals and all those sorts of things. And whether that's Derek, whether, you know, Gordon has said to me, you know, you've built something brilliant here, and you've built something that the resources all close to one another. If they've got a couple of people here sick today, they know that they can phone one of the other restaurants and say, what are you like? Have you got someone spare on the rotor? Have you got someone on your team we can phone?
Full ecosystem.
It's a full ecosystem. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that not only have we created a collection that are all near one another and they're connected by this lovely, the romance of the ferry and the water taxi, and that in itself's beautiful, and like where we are now, but every menu is completely and utterly different. They are not watered down versions of a style. And when you go to number 6, you know that you're entering a Michelin star. You're going for, I couldn't cook this at home. I could not recreate this at home. It's like theatre. You're going to the theatre, you're locked in, and you're going to have this magical experience, and it's fine dining, Michelin star, and it's beautiful, but it's not fine dining in a sense that's sort of, you know, you're whispering and, you know, like, oh, well, you know, like we're privileged to be here. No. And this goes for all of our places, but we're privileged to have you. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you. There's lots of choice, but you chose us. So number 6 is, you know, so many of our we get lots of locals, but, you know, celebrating weddings and, you know, anniversaries, birthdays. Cafe Reggiano, we make all our own pizzas, beautiful pasta dishes, you know, lots of kind of Mediterranean, Italian influence. Mariners here. The first dish I wrote for this menu was a ploughman's. I had to have a ploughman's because I love a ploughman's, and I wanted to put a ploughman's on the menu. Yeah. And then for me, a public house was always dishes. It wasn't sort of concept. It was just always a bit of everything. Great burger, add cheese and bacon for £1 back in the day, you know, a curry, fried chicken, that sort of thing. And then St Endoc is going to have a real nice focus more on sort of, you know, there's going to be some lovely dishes, you know, kind of with a lot of kind of Far East influence, Indian influence. We're going to have a nice grill, really shine a light on sort of, you know, a lot of meats and fish cooked over fire. But again, totally accessible. So you can go up there and you can have a lovely burger. You can have, you know, and when I say a nice focus on Indian, we'll have a nice selection of kind of Indian small plates, good selection of kind of nice, a butter chicken, a lovely, you know, a lovely, you know, Malai chicken and lamb tikka, lamb masala chops and stuff like that. So yeah, a real kind of, diverse range, a diverse repertoire. And
what are you most excited for people to see when it opens? The food's obviously going to be sensational, but you've done so much work in that infrastructure and the way that everything's, the rooms, obviously, it's 21 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So what is it that you think people are going to really be blown away by?
Yeah, you're right. It's what we've done. The interior design from Emma and Eve. So Eve is our interior design consultant that Emma works with, is breathtaking.
Really?
And I love our style. You know, we let the outside do the talking. The outside's beautiful. We don't rely on that. That's in itself its own thing. So what we want to do is give people something that's not so obvious. It's not, none of our properties are sort of that obvious seaside. You know, there's not pictures of, you know, like the estuary and seagulls and sort of fishermen on the walls and stuff like that. And, you know, we sort of don't, you know, there's lots of lovely places that do that. We want to sort of bring a more of an eclectic style in and just something that people go, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I suppose, yeah, like you said about the, you know, the legacy stuff, that, yeah, we've had a go and we've taken what I feel, if we'd not taken on St Endoc, I feel it would have been knocked down.
The whole building.
I feel the whole building. I think the price had got to such a point that it was, you know, you had lots of property developers sniffing around. We were the only hospitality operators that were looking at this. And I feel that we've kept something alive that's been there since 1925. I feel that we are now going to create so many more jobs. You know, the employment for there is well over 100, which in total, Ollie, now takes our business. So
because you're already at 200 already, what's going on here?
We're just north of 300 employees at the moment. And when when you, like you say, when you go back to the sandwiches and the sandwich days and all of that, there was 3 of us. So yeah, it's been quite the journey. And there's
15 years.
There's no super head office somewhere. Everything is here. You know, we've got an amazing base HQ over in Padstow, which we call Water's Edge, which is where we have guest relations, social media, Chelsea, our COO, Carol, John, HR, everything. So yeah, you know, I walk in there, Ollie, a lot of the time, and I find myself sometimes looking at it, and you know, you just sort of seeing there's this sort of sign on the wall, you know, the Ainsworth collection, 2009 to 2000, and you know, to now. Established 2009, and yeah, it's humbling, and I always will be humbled by it. I never ever take any of this for granted, and it was one of the lessons I learned from Gordon. He always used to say that to us, you know, never ever take it for granted. You don't, because as quick as you can build these things, you know, you start to take these things for granted or become too sure of yourself, you know, you can trip up. So
self-sabotage is so common in business, right?
Huge.
Like it's just a lot of the things that go wrong are all because of ego. Yeah, you know, that's where it comes from.
Ego. You're absolutely right. Ego and just not being humble and a lot of the time you see it, you know, like treating people like shit or thinking you're better than people. You're not. And again, you've only got to look at the people I've mentioned to you on this podcast, the people I absolutely, you know, respect. And like I say, when you're in the company of someone like a Ross Brawn, you can just see such a people person, such a listener, such a sort of an observer, you know, with a mind that's kind of, and those are the people that I find fascinating and interesting. And yeah, I just never ever take any of this for granted. And like I say, that's what I want people to see when they come up to St Endoc, to see that, yeah, we've had a go and we've taken something on that was so risky and such a gamble, but it's totally paid off because it's now or never. You've got to take these risks now, because if it's a thriving market, if everything was brilliant, then we wouldn't have even been able to afford to buy it, let alone go and do this refurbishment that we're doing to it.
Yeah, totally. So my last question, Paul, and thank you for everything you said so far. It's been fascinating to hear you, but what does it take to build the business you built today?
I know these are common words, but it's absolute resilience, humility. That's the huge one.
Yeah.
Humility. just being decent and humble, remaining teachable all the time, listening, and that listen to learn, not just to reply. That's a huge one. That's an absolute huge one. And just never giving up. Keep showing up. You're closer than you think. You really, really are. And it'll come good if you just... People will come if it's good, no matter what you're doing. If you've got something good, to offer, I promise you, people will come and they'll support it.
Amazing.
And surround yourself with great people, because you can't do it all. You're not going to have the best ideas, and allow people to grow. Don't micromanage. Step back. Let them take charge. Let them have a chunk of where you're going and what you're doing. Celebrate them, value them, look after them, pay them their worth. And honestly, they will do incredible things for whatever it is you want to build. And yeah, just keep hustling. Just keep hustling. And a lot, some of my great mates, like I always remember Tom Kerr saying to me, saying, "You know what, mate, I really, admire, it's not easy going up that M5." And because a lot of the stuff outside of course it is, it's London based, it's further afield, and all of the TV stuff and all of that, it's always London based and further afield and stuff. But I'll do whatever it takes. And when I was working for the great chef, Gordon, he used to say to me, when he was running all the London marathons, I'd work a 90+ hour week, and he'd be like, "Do you want to earn a few extra quid and just do some food at the house for the family?" "No problem, Gordon." "Yeah, absolutely."
Really?
Because one, I'd always want to earn a few extra quid, and two, it was like, it wasn't about the money. It was about, he's asking me, and I want to show him, and he's asked me because he knows I'll do it.
And that's true hustling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not always thinking about the money.
Yeah.
Now it's thinking about the money and the experience in the future. Massively.
Yeah. And I'll leave it, on this, there's a couple of occasions they stick in your mind. When I was working for Gordon, one of the chefs I knew at Gary Rhodes came and did a day at Royal Hospital Road.
Really?
But he went back to Royal Hospital. He went back to Rhodes in the Square, to the team in Gary, and I was still mates with them all. And he'd gone, "Paul's just a fucking punch bag. He's just he just gets bollocked all day. He's a donkey. He's
Really?
he's yeah." He went back and stuff. He just gets shouted at and screamed at all day, and it got back to me. And it really, really upset me, and it got me, and and you sort of think, well, am I just a donkey? Am I just getting bollocked all the time? Am I any good? And there was another Jess Corrigan, who I work with now, our PR, many years ago, I did a show called Raw Recipes, and I've done lots of shows that lots of people will never see, and they will do these things, and people say to me now, you seem quite natural, and you're kind of good, good in front of the camera, but when I did that show, there was a chef who was represented by somebody, and they said, we like what you do with Paul and all the things, but we don't want sort of we don't want him doing things like Raw Recipes and daytime TV. We want him doing like the primetime stuff.
Right.
And
the ego going in there.
Yeah, and exactly. And Jess, we spoke about that, and all of those things were wearing an earpiece. That show, you actually had 2 earpieces in, because you had the gallery in one ear, and then you had the director who wanted to talk to you on his own. You were interviewing guests, you were having a co-host, and you're learning your craft, you're learning your skill, you're surrounded by 6 cameras, which one to look at, all of those things. And they're all things that you start somewhere, just like once upon a time Gordon would have started somewhere and doing TV, because you learn your craft. And you've just hit the nail on the head. And the point of me telling you just those 2 stories, and I could tell you a million like that that I've experienced, where people might think that would be beneath them, or they're too good for that. It's always about, you don't know where it leads. you don't know that the runner that's on that show all them years ago is now a director.
Totally.
And that director then says, "Do you know, I remember working with Paul and he was really, really nice to work with." And I've had phone calls like that and I'm like, first of all, I'm like, "Oh, well done. Congratulations. You're now doing your own show. You're now the producer, the director."
It all comes back round, doesn't it?
You never know where it comes from. Those things. Now, yeah, of course, there's certain shows that I've been asked to do where I've gone, "No, do you know what? I don't think that's for me. I don't think that aligns with what I do." But as long as it aligns with what we do, then that's where people let ego get in the way, and that's where that sort of keep hustling, keep going, and I think I've always had this thing inside that I am willing always to go further. Where normal people kind of stop, and people go, "You're mad." Like, you know, like you're mad. Really? Like, what? Why would you do that? Or what? Yeah. I'm like, no.
There's always another thing in the.
There's always I'm willing to just to go that to do what it takes, whatever it takes.
Amazing. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been inspiring. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for having us in this incredible pub, which is about to open in a matter of minutes, so we better wrap up. But it's been amazing, and good luck. You've got 2 months to launch. I'm sure it's going to be sensational, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Absolutely. And the good thing was we've finished in time before Gordon's finished his long walk and starts hurling things on the balcony.
Exactly.
Ollie, thank you very much.
See you soon, dude. Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Connor.